So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hope everybody's doing swell today. We have the MULN Shareholders meeting in about 30 minutes. I'll be logging into the call here in about 15 minutes. And I already saw some comments. Why are you covering the MULN Shareholders meeting? Isn't that company in a bit of trouble? Yeah, it is in a bit of trouble. I like the EV sector in general. If you guys have watched any of my videos, I'm not the hugest fan of MULN, seeing as how they have no revenue and a bit of a cash problem. But there is a lot of, let's be honest, there's been a lot of clickbait about MULN over the last 2 years. And I have people in my audience asking me about it. So what you guys are asking about is stuff that I track, stuff that I report on. I've tried to give you very realistic expectations about what was going to happen with MULN. And right now, the most fascinating thing to me that's happening today is one of the first reverse split votes since the Delaware law changed. So they don't need half of shareholders to show up today. They need a majority of who shows up to vote. And I think that they do have the votes to pass everything on the ballot. But we will see. Let me know. Hey, thank you, Corey Jones. Let me know in the comments. It doesn't matter to me because I'm not currently holding a MULN position, but let me know in the comments if you want this this vote to pass or to fail. Kind of curious where you guys are at. I need to fix my audio to my headset. Let me change that. There we go. Discord voice chat is only for anybody in the Discord. You're welcome to join us. Keep it clean. We're alive. Anya says, no opinion, bag holder, real rugged, same. MULN had a little bit of a run up this morning, 12 cents up to 14, coming back down at the moment. Let's do a quick review of, I'll pull up Ortix on MULN and see where we're at. This, let me get on the screen so you can see what I'm looking at. This arrow right here, you're wondering what that was. That is when they announced that they had hired, I think that was West Christian. I have a whole list of companies that I'm tracking of when they either hired Share Intel or hired West Christian, because I'm very curious, like these companies that say they're hiring Share Intel, does anything ever happen to them? And you can see, you know, it's gone down from $3 to 13 cents since they hired Share Intel. So for MULN, that hasn't worked out very well. Where is, oh, here, I have 30 companies I'm tracking. Because a lot of people think, oh, if you hire Share Intel, this is going to make the stock skyrocket. And sometimes you do get a little PR pump. But for most of them, since the date that they hired them, they've gone nothing but go down. So forgive me for being a bit cynical on the hiring Share Intel press releases. It just has not. Here's the one that went up a few pennies. Just has not really worked out for any of these companies that made any meaningful difference. I maintain that CEOs are doing this to rope retail into hanging on longer. But, you know, the opposite side of my thought is they always say, well, this takes a long time to get the evidence. And even if they get the evidence, you know, there's NDAs. Okay. I hear you. That's a fair argument. Then why does retail celebrate these and drive the price up when that happens? If we know it's going to take a long time, should that incentivize you to FOMO into a play like we see happen so many times? Not every time, but some of these stocks. And when are we going to see real results? Here's one that had a good run up, probably for some other reason, $1 up to $5. So I need to go back and look at that one. TIO. I remember when CRTD, now Vocal, announced, and they ran up from 43 cents to 87 cents. Not bad playing the momentum. Here's another one worth looking into at some later date. VRSSF. February 2023. And then they ran up to 275. That might have been an AI run. I don't know. I have to go in and look at that one. I don't see any share intel news in here. Anyways, I digress. Turtle, what's up? He's saying hoping Zern makes her decision soon. I think everybody's ready for some sort of resolution on this. Turtle, on the AMC thing. Chris's Concert Corner says average price is 29 cents. I'm not sure about anything anymore. So here's my thoughts on Mullen. If you're in at 29 cents, at least you spared yourself most of the pain of that big walk down on Mullen, right? Over the last couple of years. But I think that there will be a reverse split. And I know David recently said that it won't be, what did he say? It won't be more than 1 for 10. I don't know if I believe that. He hasn't been very good at keeping his word. And they changed it to 1 for 100 on the proxy. So this is his last shot to get a squeeze, a reverse split in due to that 1 for 250 average rule. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see him go a lot bigger than 10. I said that I think he'll do 1 for 100. I could be wrong. That's just my guess. But we're not going to know that obviously today. We're just going to get the vote, and then at some point in the future they will announce what they're going to do. Company says they're good on cash. They say they're good on cash. I'm also skeptical of that because of the expense of hiring all these people to do the manufacturing. Maybe I'm overestimating how many people they need and what it's going to cost, but we'll see. You know, I'm not anti-Mullen. I am just skeptical, and I want you guys to be cautious when you're listening to nothing but hype and clickbait. And people doing TA, man, I love to bust on people trying to do TA on a company that has no revenue. I mean, you can kind of figure out which direction it's going to go, which is down, until they can change that story to Wall Street. Like, oh, we're actually in production now and we can generate revenue to offset our expenses. Then you start getting a turnaround story. So for people that are in Mullen, that's kind of like the pivotal point where I think that you want to consider buying Mullen if they could build enough to not lose money every quarter. And even when we see like a Lucid and a Rivian that are in production, but they're losing money, they are still getting pummeled also. Here's my EV watch list. Lucid's just getting torn up. Rivian's getting torn up. Polestar getting torn up. Now imagine you're a company like Mullen. Even these guys that are producing tens of thousands of cars are getting torn up. Just because it is a very expensive business and you got to get into huge numbers of production to start driving a profit. So I know David said he's going to start producing vehicles very soon, and they have that rollout event. They got another driving event, which I signed up for. I'm in Austin. Their first tour is in, I think, August 24th-ish. Austin's the first stop, and I plan on going to that to get a first-hand look. That'll be interesting. But I think you need to be realistic about the expenses required to start up production, and use some good common sense in calculating, can they turn a profit in the next quarter. So we'll see. Again, I'm not anti-Mullen. I'm anti-clickbait. I'm anti-hopium dealers. Let's just keep it real so that you guys, if you decide to get an entry, you're getting the best possible entry at the most optimal time. Catching the bottom on a stock is almost impossible, but we certainly can look at the financial statements and what competitors are doing to know that over the last 2 years, this thing was likely to go down. And just being patient is one of the best tools in your investor toolkit. Wes says, I got out of Mullen, lost $100. Yeah, at least you, that's another important tool, right? Is scaling your risk. I talk about that a lot. If you know you're going into a dubious play, you don't want to be putting $100,000. I see it just breaks my heart to see people that say they're down $200,000 on Mullen. And I know they got caught up in the excitement and the emotion months or years ago, and they didn't have a firm grasp on the EV sector or the difficulty of starting up a EV company, manufacturing, the difficulty and the expense, the homologation, getting through all the regulatory hurdles. It is difficult. And that's where I'm coming at, just kind of a realistic viewpoint. I want all these EV companies to succeed, and I want all of you guys to make money, but I also more want for you not to lose money. Jason says, I'll be there in Austin as well. Beautiful. If you guys see me, feel free to come up and say hi. It's 11:15. Let me see if I can get in this call. Hang on one second. All right, I've got it on the screen here. I had to mute it so we don't get copyright strike, and the meeting should be starting in about 13 minutes. Blazin', what's up? Anti-losing money. You know it. Anya, good morning. JT says Mullen did a 25 for 1 or 1 for 25 reverse split 3 months ago. Why would they do it again? Unfortunately, out of their control or in their control, I'll let you be the judge of that. They are back down to 13 cents and back under the knife for being delisted down to the pink sheets. And if you want to know what happens when you get delisted down to the pink sheets, let's look at BBIG. As unsavory as another reverse split is, I get it. Look at this, what happened to BBIG the day they got delisted. It dropped from $5 to $1.60 in a day due to delisting and dropping down to the pink sheets. So Mullen, it would just get obliterated. I mean, how much more obliterated can you get than 14 cents? Well, that is a good question. But nobody's going to look at your stock from an institutional side if you are on the pink sheets. The other thing that I'm afraid of, the reason they got, after the 1 for 25, the reason that they got hammered all the way back down, not just from shorting, but I think it is my strong belief, you guys are going to find out, that the free float of Mullen, even though you think it is 313 million shares, I think that you're going to see in the next update, shares outstanding, they say 643. I think we're going to see this number between 1 and 2 billion on the next update, and closer to 2 billion than 1. And that, those shares being sold is what drove the price down. We'll find out as soon as they do another 10Q or another prospectus where they are required to disclose the current share count. We're going to see. I think that Mullen drove the price down by selling shares to lenders who then resold them into the market. Mr. Radio says retail holds the majority. I do not believe that is the case. And I looked at the proxy. I looked at the majority shareholders. I don't think it's retail. That's why I said about a month ago that they have the votes to pass everything. We'll find out if I'm wrong. The other thing is, who shows up to vote today is really the question. Because of the new Delaware law, you don't need 50% of votes, 50% of shares voting. Whoever shows up to vote today is going to carry the day. Wes says I'm down more on AMC. Yeah, I mean, it is a problem I see on many, many tickers. People go all in on one stock because they think that is the one, the chosen one. And I want to encourage you guys to change that behavior and always scale your risk. Spread your risk out if you are investing in companies which aren't generating positive income. If you're seeing positive earnings per share or a trend into that direction, you can scale up the risk. But if you're seeing no revenue or negative revenue, which is what retail tends to focus on, I want you to think about scaling your risk down and not loading the boat or putting all of your portfolio in that one stock. it's very difficult for any of us to pick the one winning play. From time to time, people get lucky. They load the boat and then something skyrockets. But that is not the norm. And I feel personally, for me, much more comfortable spreading my bets out across a variety of sectors and a variety of different companies. I'd like to see you guys picking, 75, 80% of your holdings being profitable companies. And for the degenerate gamblers like me that like to have fun trying to pick the next winner, allocate a percentage of your portfolio in case you screw it up, that you don't wipe your entire account out. John's Touchpad, good morning to you. NH Optimist says, are we talking about AMC? Mr. Optimist, do I see a significant negative impact? Are we talking about Mullen or AMC? Meeting starts in 7 minutes. I have it queued up. I've got it on my screen. Whoops, where'd it go? Here we go. Let's see if they're still playing music. Yep. Okay, so Optimus, 1 for 10 has been telegraphed. If it held to that level, would there be significant impact? 1 for 10 would be a lot less of a impact than 1 for 100, obviously, right? But 1 for 10 only gets them to $1.35. I don't think that's realistic. I can't see them just doing a 1 for 10, honestly. What do you think? I mean, you saw how fast they got walked down on the last one. Do you think he's going to take his final shot? This is his last shot to do a reverse split. You think he's going to blow it on a 1 for 10 and then get walked down below $1? They could do that in a day. All right, someone's asking, did the shorts cover yet? Which is a good time to pull up the Ortix. I just can't see him doing a 1 for 10. If I was Mishuri, I'd go straight for the 1 for 100. And yeah, that's gonna suck for retail. We're at 24% short interest, cost to borrow 8%. Over at Interactive Brokers, they have greater than 10 million shares. There's plenty of shares available to borrow. And short interest is rising. The long-term trend is up. Anya just got out of Nikola. Yeah, that's been another troubled one, hasn't it, Anya? You got out on the run-up? Let's go back and look at them back in the old days. $93 down to 52 cents. But a nice little recovery here in the past 3 months. 52 back up to 345. Most recent quarter, they've been making some recovery, whittling down. They're still losing money, but they have been decreasing that loss. Balance sheet. 121 million. That's not a lot of cash. Current assets. Between, well, I'm not going to count inventory. Between accounts receivable and cash, they got about 150 million. Current liabilities is 78,204. Yeah, that's not awesome. More current liabilities than current assets. How'd you like the Rivian, Steve? The Rivian truck. We saw one driving yesterday out on the road here in Austin. 1796 as a 1 for 100 would leave him with 4 shares. I know. It is mind-boggling what these guys can do when they're trying not to get delisted and they're trying to give themselves some headroom to raise more cash. PB, what's up? He says, what are your thoughts on KRE? Let me pull it up on Ortix real quick. We got 2 minutes left for Mullen. I have time to check Ortix real quick. Are we talking about the ETF? I don't typically, I don't buy banking stocks, so I'm gonna decline to comment on that one. Not really my area of expertise. Season Curly says Rivians are very unreliable. Need to wait a few more generations of vehicles. Yeah, not generations of our children. All right, 11:30. Let's see if they're live.
Participants will be in
Can y'all hear that okay?
I will now turn the call over to your host, Mr. Mtg. You may begin, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the annual meeting of stockholders of Mullen Automotive, Inc. It is now 9:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and in accordance with the notice of the annual meeting, I call this meeting to order. I am David Mishry, Chief Executive Officer of the company, and I will act as chairman of the meeting. This
volume's a little low. Hopefully y'all can hear it.
Also present is Tony Credillo, the Inspector of Elections and representative of our outside counsel, Manat Phelps Phillips, LLP, our proxy solicitor, OP Partners, and Broadridge Financial Solutions, the vote tabulator for this meeting. In accordance with our bylaws, the Board of Directors set June 22nd, 2023 as the record date for this meeting. Our transfer agent, Continental Stock Transfer and Trust Company, has provided a certified record of stockholders as of such date. This record has been on file at the principal executive offices of the company for the 10 days immediately prior to the date of this meeting and is available for inspection by any stockholder during this meeting. We will begin the meeting by confirming the presence of a quorum, then proceed with presentations of the proposals before the meeting today, followed by a report of the preliminary results of the voting. To follow along with the meeting, an agenda is available on screen at our meeting website. No questions will be permitted at this, as this is not a forum to present questions or comments. If you wish to vote today, the polls are open and will stay open until I finish presenting all proposals. Tony has been appointed to act as Inspector of Elections for this meeting and any adjournment thereof, and has taken his oath to faithfully execute his duties as Inspector of Elections. Tony, please present the Inspector's report.
All right, here we go.
Thank you. I present for the record an affidavit of distribution executed by Continental Stock Transfer and Broadridge affirming that notice of this meeting was duly given and that a notice of meeting, proxy statement, annual report on Form 10-K, a proxy card, and a prepaid postage envelope were furnished on or about July 11, 2023 by Broadridge to stockholders of record on the record date. Official list of stockholders of the company as of the close of business on June 22, 2023, the record date for this meeting, has been certified by Continental Stock Transfer and is open for inspection during the meeting. As of the record date, outstanding shares totaled 643,376,440 shares of common stock, 1,037 shares of Series A preferred stock, 1,210,056 shares of Series C preferred stock, and 363,097 shares of Series D preferred stock. No shares of Series B preferred stock are outstanding. Holders of common stock. Holders of common stock are entitled to one vote for each share of common stock held of record as of the record date. Holders of Series A preferred stock are entitled to 1,000 votes each share of Series A preferred stock held on the record date and vote with common stock. Holders of Series C preferred stock are entitled to one vote for each share of common stock into which such Series C preferred stock may be converted on the record date, and each holder thereof is entitled to vote with the common stock on such as an as converted to common stock basis. Holders of Series D preferred stock are entitled to one vote for each share of common stock into which such Series D preferred stock may be converted as of the record date. Vote with the common stock on such as converted to common stock basis only on Proposal 4. Stockholders who return proxies authorized each of the persons named therein to vote on the proposals for the meeting. Presence in person or by proxy of holders of record of at least 33 1/3% of the voting power of the company's outstanding capital stock entitled to vote at the meeting constitutes a quorum for the transaction of business at this meeting. Present in person or represented proxy at this meeting is more than 33 1/3% of the company's outstanding capital stock, which is sufficient for transacting the business of this meeting. As Proposal 4 requires separate class votes of each of the Series A preferred stock, Series C preferred stock, and Series D preferred stock, presence in person or by proxy of the holders of the majority of the outstanding shares of each such series constitutes a quorum entitled to vote on Proposal 4. A quorum was not met with respect to proposal. Accordingly, on behalf of the Board of Directors, I declare a quorum present for consideration of all proposals except Proposal 4. Meetings lawfully convened and may proceed with the transaction of business properly before it. I will provide an exact count of stockholders present or represented at this meeting in person or by proxy, and will submit a formal report in the certificate that I will deliver after the meeting.
Thank you. The Inspector's Oath of Office, certified list of stockholders, an affidavit of distribution will be filed with the minutes of this meeting. We will now proceed to transact the business for which the meeting has been called. Properly submitted proposals are listed on the agenda and in the proxy materials previously distributed to you. Most stockholders voted on the internet, by telephone, or by mail. If you have previously voted and do not wish to change your vote, it is not necessary to vote today. Those of you who hold your shares in your own name as a record holder and have not yet submitted a proxy card or wish to vote your shares differently than you indicated on your proxy card may do so while I present the proposals. Those of you who hold your shares in the name of a third party, such as a broker, must have a legal proxy from the named stockholder if you wish to vote your shares today. Proposal 1, election of Class 2 directors. The first proposal before our stockholders is the election of 2 Class 2 directors to serve for a 3-year term ending as of our annual meeting in 2026 and until their successors are duly elected and qualified. Upon the recommendation of our nominating and governance committees, the board has nominated each Kent Puckett and Mark Vitor for election to the board as the Class 2 directors. Directors are elected by a plurality of all of the votes present in person are represented by proxy and entitled to vote at today's meeting. Our board of directors recommended a vote for election of each nominee of Class 2 directors. Proposal 2, increase and authorize shares of common and preferred stock. The second proposal before our stockholders is approval of amendment of our 2022 Equity Incentive Stock Plan to increase the number of shares of common stock authorized for issuance under the plan by 52 million shares. Proposal 2 requires the affirmation vote of a majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of our common stock, our Series A preferred stock, and our Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted to common stock basis, present in person or represented by proxy at this meeting and entitled to vote, all voting together as a single class. On board recommendations that the stockholders vote in favor of the amendment to our 2022 Equity Incentive Plan as presented in Proposal 2. Proposal 3, approval of amendment of Certificate of Incorporation. The third proposal before our stockholders is approval of amendment of our second amended and restated Certificate of Incorporation to effect a reverse stock split of our outstanding common stock in a ratio to be determined by our board or not less than 1:2 and not more than 1:100. Our board of directors has determined that in accordance with an amendment to Delaware General Corporation Law effective August 1, 2023, Proposal 3 shall be approved if the votes cast for the reverse stock split amendment by the holders of the voting power of our common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted to common stock basis, entitled to vote thereon, voting together as a single class, exceed the vote cast against the amendment. Our board recommends that the stockholders vote to approve amendment of our Certificate of Incorporation to effect a reverse stock split as presented in Proposal number 3. Proposal number 4, approve the conversion to a Maryland corporation. Proposal 4 is the conversion proposal which seeks approval of changing our state of incorporation from the state of Delaware to the state of Maryland pursuant to a plan of conversion as described in our proxy statement. Proposal 4 requires approval by the affirmation vote of 1, a majority of the outstanding shares of our common stock, Series A preferred stock, Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted to common stock basis, entitled to vote thereon, all voting together as a single class, and 2, a majority of the outstanding shares of each of the Series A preferred stock, Series C preferred stock, Series D preferred stock, entitled to vote thereon, each voting as a separate class. Since a quorum was not satisfied solely with respect to Proposal 4. We will not be considering this proposal at this meeting. Proposal 5 provides our stockholders with an opportunity to approve in a non-binding advisory vote the compensation of our named executive officers by voting for the following resolution. Resolved that the compensation paid to the company's named executive officers as disclosed pursuant to the compensation disclosure rules of the Securities and Exchange Commission, including the compensation table and any related materials disclosed in this proxy statement, is hereby approved.
Stephen, I think those
Proposal 5 requires
sold to
the
certain investors and lenders.
Vote of the majority of the voting power of our outstanding shares of common stock, Series A preferred stock, and the Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted to common stock basis, all voting together as a single class. Our board of directors recommends that the stockholders vote for approval on the non-binding advisory basis of the compensation for named executive officers. Proposal 6. Proposal 6 is a non-binding advisory vote on the frequency of future non-binding advisory votes on the compensation of our named executive officers, commonly referred to as say-on frequency. Such future non-binding advisory votes may be held every year, every 2 years, or every 3 years. Proposal 6 requires the affirmative vote of the majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of our common stock and Series A preferred stock and our Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted to common stock basis, presents in person or represented by proxy and entitled to vote, voting together as a single class. Our board recommended that future advisory votes on the compensation of our named executive officers be held every 3 years. Approval of proposal number 7, approval of issuances of shares to David Mishry pursuant to performance stock awards programs. Proposal 7 seeks approval in compliance with NASDAQ listing rule 5635C of the issuance shares of common stock to David Mishry pursuant to a performance stock award agreement approved by our board of directors. Proposal 7 requires approval by the affirmative votes of the majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, voting on as an as converted to common stock basis, all voting together as a single class. Our board recommends that the stockholders vote in favor of the issuances of shares pursuant to the performance stock award agreement as presented in Proposal 7. Proposal 8, approval of the issuance of 7 million in shares of common stock in warrant Series D preferred stock and warrant and future adjustments of their respective conversion on exercise price. Proposal 8 before our stockholders is approval in compliance with NASDAQ listing rule 5635D of the issuance of 7 million in shares of stock and warrants and the underlying shares of common stock upon conversion of the warrants and future adjustments of the exercise price of the warrants. Proposal 8 requires votes of the majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of our common stock, Series A preferred stock, Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted to common stock basis. Present in person or represented by proxy at the meeting and entitled to vote thereon, all voting together as a single class. Our board recommended that the stockholders vote in favor of Proposal 8. Proposal 9, ratification of appointment of RBSM. Proposal number 9 before the stockholders is ratification of the appointment of RBSM LLP as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023. This proposal requires the vote of a majority of the outstanding shares of our common stock, our Series A preferred stock, and our Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted basis to common stock basis, presented in person or represented by proxy at this meeting and entitled to vote thereon, all voting together as a single class. Our board recommends that the stockholders ratify such appointment. Proposal 10, adjournment. Proposal 10 seeks approval of adjournment of the meeting if necessary if there are insufficient votes for or otherwise in connection with the approval of one or more proposals. The vote of the majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of the company's common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, voting as in converted to common stock basis, present in person or represented by proxy at the meeting and entitled to vote thereon, all voting together as a single class, is required to approve adjournment. Our board recommends that the stockholders approve adjournment proposal. Voting. As this concludes presentation of the proposals on the agenda, I hereby declare the polls closed for each matter voted upon at this meeting. All shares of capital stock of Mullen Automotive, Inc. that are represented at this annual meeting of stockholders by one or more proxies are hereby voted in accordance with the instructions that appear on such proxies regarding all proposals, except proposal number 4 on the corporation's proxy card, if no instruction was provided on a proxy granted to the proxy holder, and or to the extent that the proxy holders have discretionary authority to vote such proxy, the shares represented by such proxy are hereby voted in favor of all the proposals except proposal 4. With the Inspector of Elections report the preliminary results of the voting.
Chairman, according to the preliminary results, proposal number 1, each of Kent Puckett and Mark Vitor have been duly elected to the Board of Directors to a 3-year term expiring on the date of the annual meeting 2026. 2, the increase of authorized shares for the company's 2022 Equity Incentive Plan has been approved by the affirmative vote of a majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, voting as converted to common stock basis, present in person, represented by a proxy, and entitled to vote, all voting together as a single class. Proposal number 3. Votes cast for the reverse stock split described in Proposal 3 by the holders of common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, being on an as converted to common, presented by proxy, and entitled to vote thereon, all voting together as a single class, exceed the votes against Proposal 3, and therefore
Number 3
Proposal
passed.
3 has been. 4. Based on the lack of quorum required for the Maryland conversion, Proposal 4 was not considered. 5.
His audio's dropping.
Compensation of our named executive officers has been approved on a non-binding advisory basis by the affirmative vote, majority of the voting power of the company's outstanding shares of common stock, A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, voting on an as converted to common stock basis, all voting together. 6. Stockholders have voted on a non-binding advisory basis for holding of the frequency of future advisory votes on the compensation of named executive officers every 3 years. Proposal number 7. Issuance of shares of common stock to the company's chief executive officer pursuant to a performance stock award agreement has been approved by the affirmative vote, majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, voting on it converted to common stock basis, all voting together as a single class. Proposal number 8. Issuance of $7 million in shares of common stock and warrants exercisable into shares of common stock, and any future adjustments of the exercise price has been approved by the affirmative vote.
Sounds like everything's going to be approved.
The voting power of the outstanding shares of the company's common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock, voting on it as converted to common stock basis, all voting together as a single class. Proposal number 9, the appointment of RBSM LLP as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, has been ratified by the affirmative vote. Majority of the voting power of outstanding shares of common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock voting on an as converted to common stock basis, all voting together as a single class. Proposal number 10, the adjournment proposal has been approved by an affirmative vote of the majority of the voting power of the outstanding shares of the company's common stock, Series A preferred stock, and Series C preferred stock voting on an as converted to common stock basis, all voting together as a single class. Prepare a certificate of my final tabulation for filing with the proxies, ballots, and my report for the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you, Tony. We will file a Form 8K reporting the fiscal results with respect to the matters voted on today on or before August 9, 2022. This now concludes the formal business of this meeting. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I declare this annual meeting adjourned and thank you for your attendance.
Well, there you go. I know a lot of people are going to be surprised. I told you guys a month ago everything would pass. The big voters, the big shareholders had enough shares on the date of record to carry the vote. I know most of retail probably voted against it. I'll post the 8K with the actual numbers once it is available, and then we will stay tuned for the board's decision on the actual reverse split numbers. I've got to go get my cardio in. I'm going to go swim half a mile, and I will see you guys back about an hour before the market close. That'll be 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, if I make it back on time. Should be able to do that. Thank you for tuning in. And as more news comes on what happens with that reverse split, stay tuned on Twitter and the community tab, and I'll provide you those updates, or stay tuned to Mullen on their website. Thank you, guys. We will see you in a couple hours.
So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay.